All right, your attention, please. Please welcome the City of St. George Planning Commission meeting Monday, July the 6th, 2026 at 6 p.m. St. George Fire Department, 14100 Airline Highway, St. George, Louisiana. If y'all would, please, we'll stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance. Roll call, please. Here. Minutes is published on the website. Commission members, y'all have a copy of it. Motion? All in favor? Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Public hearings is, first item is S26-0021, combination of lots T, I don't know what T means, at T 1340 Riga Road. You want to read the application, please?
This is case S-26-0021 at T13400 Riga Road. The owner is Brian Campbell of Piku Properties, LLC. The applicant is Michael Davis of LandSource, Inc. The site area is 10.17 acres. The zoning is B2 Business 2. The zoning overlay is a planned overlay, PUD-13-06. The character area is suburban. The flood zone is X. The existing use is undeveloped. The request is a combination of lots 4 and 5 of the Piku Place subdivision to create tract 4-A of the Piku Place property in section 49 T8S R2E. The subject site consists of 2 lots, lot 4 and lot 5 of Piku Place subdivision. The applicant proposes to combine lots 4 and 5 to create the new tract 4-A of the Piku Place subdivision. The combination of lots application is related to the following additional cases: PO-26-0001 final development plan for the Piku Place planned unit development, and SP-26-0009 site plan for a 112,500 square foot office/warehouse in the Piku Place subdivision. The proposed lot meets the non-residential dimensional standards in the B2 business zoning district within the suburban character area. Staff recommendation is approval.
All right, this is a public hearing. Let's open this up to a public hearing, please. I think we have Mr. Al Thibodeau.
Good evening, everyone. Al Thibodeau. I'm president of the Woodridge Property Owners Association. Main thing we're concerned about, we're working with Mr. Campbell on it. He presented this thing to the board. We're satisfied with what he said he was going to do. They've changed the drainage outfalls from a 90-degree impact to the drainage ditch behind Quail Grove to a 45, which we think was important. The only thing we would ask you to require is that some kind of concrete or riprap that's put in to prevent erosion coming through from that, and also to ensure the landscaping that he's got specified in it is maintained as the buffer for us. Thank you.
Hello? That's the only comment card I had. Does anybody else want to speak on this? There being no one, we'll close the public comment period. Commissioners?
Motion approved.
All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Item 4B is PO-26-001 final development plan at T 13400 Riga Road. You want to read the?
This is PO-26-0001 at T13400 Rieger Road. The owner is Brian Campbell of PQ Properties LLC. The applicant is Craig Corey of Monroe and Corey, Inc. Site area is 10.17 acres. The zoning is B2 business. The zoning overlay is PUD-13-06. The character area is suburban. Flood zone is X. The existing use is undeveloped. The request is a new final development plan and site plan for Piku Place planned overlay on lots 4 and 5, now tract 4-A of Piku Place subdivision. This request is the fourth final development plan within the PUD-13-06 planned overlay for the Piku Place development. The request also meets the site plan threshold for zoning commission approval, therefore a concurrent site plan request is required. The applicant proposes a new 112,500 square foot office/warehouse with an access drive to Park Bluff Drive. The applicant proposes a 25,279 square feet of office space and 87,221 square feet of warehouse space. The combined office/warehouse requires 101 parking spaces and 125 spaces are proposed. The proposed office warehouse also includes 10 loading bays. Staff finds that the final development plan and site plan comply with the applicable technical requirements and review criteria of the UDC and therefore recommends approval.
Applicant, you got any comment?
We are providing the request of the neighborhood behind us that we change the drainage, and we're going to definitely have riprap in the construction plans to prevent any kind of erosion of that channel there. I think we've addressed everything that needs to be addressed, but if y'all have any questions, I'm here to answer.
Question? All right, this is a public hearing again. Thank you, Mr. Court. I got two comment cards on here. Mr. Campbell, did you want to speak on this particular thing? There's a card up here that doesn't have what? Craig Corey again, that's already spoke. Yvonne Reed. Okay. Anybody else want to comment on this? Anyone? Well, you can come on up and just come on up. He's got it. 06. You got it on the zoning thing, but that's all right. You can speak.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Kevin Giat. I live at 8976 Foxgate Drive. My concern is, I know we had a meeting and Fred Rayford came in with the flood, predicted a 10-year flood plan, and a bunch of people weren't happy. And his comment was he couldn't predict, a 100-year flood plan. I was one of the residents that flooded back in 2021. And was not happy with with what happened, and it's looking like we're gonna flood again. I mean, about a month and a half ago, we had a ton of rain. Both entrances into the subdivision were flooded, and that's with us not, nobody even building on this. So I mean, with the importance of this, I mean, somebody should be able to give us, if it's, we're not asking for a 100-year flood plan, but give us a 20 or 30. I mean, you have a lot of people that's going to be affected, with the way this runoff is. I mean, the Klein Peter property is already built up. We have been, their water drains into our subdivision, into our green space or our retention pond. And, it was set up like that years ago. But, I mean, with all this development and stuff, I just don't feel like, the due diligence has been done to inform the residents of Woodridge, as to, what's going on. I mean, I have, something from a gentleman wanting to put a retention pond behind my house, and, none of that has been brought up. I mean, it's almost like it's being done secretly. They're meeting with my neighbor wanting access to his property, but it affects about 10 or 12 of us, you know. I mean, I have questions about that. You know, it's like, why is this not being presented? And, you know, some of the numbers, what Fred had put out and what this guy's putting out, they're not matching. So, I mean, I have a big concern as far as, you know, I don't want a flood again. And, I mean, I think, you know, it's going to affect the whole neighborhood if this thing is not done properly. So I'm just asking y'all to, you know, somebody do their due diligence and, you know, definitely give us an answer. You know, a 10-year flood plan, I mean, you know, that's not that acceptable, at least not in my eyes. I mean, they should be able to do a 20 or 30-year plan to put us, you know, put our mind at ease at least. So, I mean, you know, if y'all, somebody can look into that, I mean, whatever, you know, needs to be done, but I would definitely appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes. Mr. Dixon, I'll ask you a question real quick. What is the drainage studies based on? What kind of flood? So, sir, it's already designed on a 100-year flood, on a 100-year flood.
Why did Fred Rayford in the last meeting say it's a 10-year flood plan?
This is City of St. George, it's not Fred Rayford. This is Fred Rayford, City of Baton Rouge. 25?
Well, how can we get a copy of the 20, whatever, if it's a 25-year flood plan?
I think if you look on the City of St. George website, look under the Unified Development Code, and I think it says it in the Unified Development Code. Stephanie, is that correct? Do you know?
We also have the drainage studies that you want to talk about.
I mean, I can tell you, our site doesn't drain through the neighborhood at all. It drains into a ditch that's running behind the property right there and drains directly into Ward's Creek. So it's not what's causing the drainage issues for that site at all. So.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else want to speak on this?
I think with what they're talking about, yeah, I agree. Your property in the back of Mr. Campbell's property would go into Ward's Creek.
Sir, state your name and address again, please.
I'm sorry. Al Thibodeau, I'm president of the Woodridge POA. I'll say that, you know, I'll agree with him that the drainage on this particular plot here would be going into the ditch behind the properties on Quail Grove Avenue Drive, and then draining into Ward's Creek. What Mr. Giat was talking about was the other one with the Klein Peter property, that the retention pond was going to be put in there. According to the drainage plan that was done, supposedly it was presented by Mr. Andre Rodrigue to our board and our membership. We had a meeting there. He said that there would be a reduction in the water flow coming through that, but I don't, you know, I'm not in a position to say if that was a valid study, because I'm also concerned about regarding the VA clinic property. Understand that a drainage study, I mean, a traffic study was done, and
On this piece of property here, we'll do the VA later on, sir, please.
I'm sorry, say that again, Mr. Evans?
Let's keep our discussion on this piece of property, not
Okay.
the VA property now.
All right. That's all the comments I had on this one, then, sir.
Maybe I was commenting on the wrong property. Sorry about that. I'm more concerned with the VA property. Maybe I
All right. Thank you, sir. Any other comments? There being none, we'll close the public hearing. Commissioners, Mr. Court, let me ask you a question. Have they started doing work on this property yet?
Started work on this property? No.
Where's when you go into that roundabout, there's a whole bunch of dirt work going on in the area. Is that
That's,
is that the lot next door?
The Penske's next door to it. They're under construction.
Penske's comes all the way to the cul-de-sac?
Yeah,
Okay, all right, thank you, appreciate it.
Okay.
Commissioners? Any objections? With no objection, motion carries. Motion? Second it? All in favor? Aye. All right, welcome again to the City of St. George Zoning Commission meeting Monday, July the 6th, 2026. St. George Fire Department, 14100 Airline Highway, St. George, Louisiana. We'll do a roll call again, please. Here. The minutes again are on the website. Commissioners have them. We have a motion. Any objections? No objections, motion carries. Item number 4 is public hearing. 4A is CU-26-004, conditional use permit at 19100 Bluebonnet Center Boulevard. Y'all want to read the application, please, for us?
This is case CU-26-0004. It's located at 9100 Bluebonnet Center Boulevard. The owner is 9100 Bluebonnet Center BR LLC. The applicant is T. Sebarak. The site area is 2.88 acres. This base zoning is C2. The existing use is medical offices, clinic, bank, and offices. The applicant is requesting a conditional use permit for 2 roof signs on a single structure. The subject property consists of Lot 4 of the Bluebonnet Center property, located at the southwest end of Bluebonnet Center Boulevard, with access provided via the private street Yellow Brick Road. The subject property contains an approximately 70-foot high office building with 2 existing B1 bank wall signs mounted near the top of the structure. The subject property abuts the following uses. To the west, low-density residential subdivision. To the south, Interstate 10 highway. East and north are offices, and the nearby properties along Bluebonnet Boulevard contain a mixture of commercial uses, including a hotel, restaurant, and gas station. The proposed roof sign complies with all applicable requirements except the installation of 2 roof signs and the overall building height minimum requirements. Staff recommends that the Zoning Commission grant final approval for the installation of each sign.
Thank you. Is the applicant here?
Good evening. My name is Christy Reeves. I live at 16047 Hickory Knoll in St. George. I'm a vice president at Ochsner Health, and I'm here. First, I'd like to thank the mayor and the city for taking time to meet with me on this application. We're seeking approval for a sign at this facility. We actually are amending this request. Our original request is for 2 signs, and we understand the ordinance around that. And so we've had conversations with the city. We'd like to amend it to 1 sign. We understand that we have visibility from our facility, 1 exit over at the Grove, and what we would request is a sign going westbound. We occupy this space for our leadership hub. It's all of our executives for the region. We have leadership meetings. We have interviews with staff. We do trainings. And while we love our friends at B1 Bank, we would love to be able to say, we'll see you at the Ochsner Building in St. George. And so I gratefully respect all of your time, your service, and hope that you would see that as a compromise and allow us to put our Ochsner sign on our beautiful St. George building.
This is a public hearing. We'll open this for a public hearing if you don't mind.
Yep.
Does anybody want to speak on this item? There being no one, we'll close the public hearing. Commissioners, you want to come back up, ma'am, please? Commissioners, any questions? Commissioner, the ordinance allows us to do a roof sign on an 80-foot tall building, okay? And we're going to grant you a waiver because you're building 70-foot tall to do 1 sign on the roof, not on the facade of the front of the building, on the roof, and you want it facing Bluebonnet?
We want it to face westbound.
Westbound, towards the interstate.
Yeah.
So if I can make the motion, we'll make a motion to approve 1 sign on the roof with a waiver of the 80-foot requirement to do 1 roof sign. Any objections? Motion carries.
Thank you
ma'am.
so much. Appreciate all your service.
Next item is 4B, SP-26-006, site plan at 12501 Riga Road. Y'all want to read the application, please?
This is site plan application SP-26-0006 for property located at 12501 Riga Road. at the northwest corner of the PQ Lane and Riga Road intersection. The property consists of approximately 10.91 acres, is owned by LRK LLC, and the applicant is Stantec on behalf of Carnegie Management and Development Corporation, the contract purchaser. The site is currently not zoned. It's within the suburban character area overlay located in flood zone X outside of a conveyance zone and is currently undeveloped. The applicant requests approval of a site plan to construct a new 120,000 square foot, 2-story VA clinic together with 600 parking spaces, 2 access drives to PQ Lane, including 1 shared access drive with the adjacent property, and 1 access drive to Riga Road. Additionally, the applicant is requesting an associated regional stormwater management facilities on the adjacent lots. The proposed regional detention basin is designed to serve not only the VA clinic, but also a portion of the Riga Road drainage system and anticipated future commercial development within the surrounding area. The primary issue identified during the staff review is site access. Based on City Engineering Department's recommendation, staff would recommend limiting the project to 1 shared access drive on PQ Lane only to reduce conflict points near the signalized intersection with Riga Road. The proposed access to Riga Road is acceptable and may be modified in the future to facilitate shared access with the adjacent development if necessary. Staff finds that the proposed site plan complies with other applicable technical requirements of the UDC, including approved alternative compliance for certain parking and landscaping standards. Accordingly, staff recommended approval of the site plan subject to the conditions outlined in finding number 13 of the staff report.
I assume y'all the applicants?
Good evening. Good evening. My name is George Papandreas. I'm with Carnegie Management and Development Corporation. I'm their executive vice president. I am representing BRBC, who is the applicant. Carnegie is the managing member of the applicant. It's a wholly owned subsidiary of the entity. And we're also the developers who, on behalf of BRBC, are seeking your approval here tonight. I have with me my team. I got Mr. Morgan France here, who's our pre-construction coordinator, and I have Andre Rodriguez, who is from Stantec, our civil engineer. They're going to be following up with more descriptions on the project and some technical deliveries or presentations, if appropriate, based on the questions that might be appropriately asked. But I want to just thank you, first of all, the opportunity to be here today. We're really excited about that. We thank you for your time and giving us this ability to present to you, which, interestingly enough, is very fittingly on the wake of the 250th anniversary of our great country. And so we are here trying to seek your approval tonight on this site plan and for the VA clinic to be able to deliver what we consider to be a first-class facility delivering world-class health care to the VA and our veterans. I mean, I think that's really, really critical to point out. I mean, and also for you to understand a little bit about who Carnegie is. We've been in business now for over 37 years, and we have projects in 18 different states. We have over 7 million square feet of various types of projects. We have retail, office, residential, institutional, governmental. Approximately 215 projects in total. Of those, 51 are government related, and of those, 18 are VA facilities. And one thing that I think really distinguishes us, which I really want to emphasize here today, is what our philosophy is, and that's asset retention. Well, what does asset retention mean? Well, from our perspective, we never sell anything. What we develop, we own. We identify with the community, we make representations that we stand by, and we will be here to continue to do so for the next 20 years, which incidentally is the duration of this particular lease for this particular clinic. So there's long-term ownership, there's long-term maintenance, there's long-term management, and there's long-term accountability. And that's something I want to really emphasize here tonight with you guys. We have extension, as I mentioned, we have extensive VA experience. We've just completed projects in Charleston, South Carolina, Myrtle Beach, Daytona, Fayetteville, and our crown jewel actually is Fredericksburg, a 485,000 square foot facility. This particular facility is the largest in the country. And I encourage you, if you haven't already done so, to go on our website and to see some of these facilities, and I think is very reflective of the first-class character that we try to bring to the communities that we do these projects in. But I think it's also important to note that these are business occupancies. They're not overnight hospitals per se. They're not a 24/7 operation. It's more like an office use, but it's offering medical services to our veterans. We understand through our experience the standards that are required by the VA in order to be successfully awarded these projects. And we've delivered them successfully, consistently over our 37-year history. And I think that's a track record we're really proud of. On this particular site, we're currently the buyers. The seller is LRK, and it's a condition of our closing that we receive this approval and also to meet our obligations to the federal government, which is our tenant. So we can't really proceed unless we do get this site plan as we are seeking here tonight, this approval. And I think it's important, and Morgan will probably get into this a little bit more, and so will Andre, but I think it's important to point out that this is a federal procurement process. How do we get these awards? I mean, first of all, it starts with congressional approval. And there are appropriations that are associated with this. They identify target areas, and they allow or apportion these funds in order for them to be available for these projects to go forward. There's a competitive solicitation. They actually go out and they seek requests for lease proposals from whoever is a qualified bidder. And they identify specific criteria, which is really, I think, one of the most fundamental aspects of being awarded a project like this. The criteria is set forth by the federal government. They identify what's important in order to meet the qualification of an award. And we go out then and we take that criteria and we research sites in order to hopefully be compliant, because to be compliant is the only way you're going to get an award. So we conduct studies. We consult all applicable authorities associated with the jurisdictions that we're interested in, so that when we arrive at a site plan, we know it's a design that's going to be compliant, but also one that's viable, one that's appropriate, one that we can represent, that we can deliver to the federal government in order for the award to be made. So ultimately, at the end of the day, the site plan that we are awarded becomes actually an exhibit to the lease that we have with the federal government. They have a selection committee that goes and they evaluates every one of the prospective bidders and identifies who complies and who doesn't. If you don't comply, you don't win. And if you don't win, we're not here today. And fortunately, we're excited to say we did win, and we're excited to be here tonight to seek your approval on that site plan accordingly. I think before we get too deep into this, I do recognize that there have been some comments that have been made by the staff report. I see that there is a recommendation for approval, however, that there have been certain conditions. I'd like to just touch upon that for a moment, because it all relates specifically to this criteria that I've been referencing. The lease is a contractual obligation. We've made a representation that it be complied with, and that site plan that is before you is part of that representation. Some of the fundamental criteria are, most importantly, access. And the key criteria in that regard has always been, with the VA, a separation of what we call different types of traffic patterns for designated parking areas. And there are three. There's the staff, and there's the staff parking areas, there's the patient and visitor parking areas, and then there's the service and ambulance access. Those three are separate and distinct, And we have to show from a right-of-way that there's access to each and every one of them. There can't be a situation where the only way to get to staff parking is to go through the staff and patient entrance, or to go through the service entrance. And conversely, the only way to get to each of those respectively. So there has to be a designated access point that we can refer to that says this is appropriate for staff parking. Now, we're not talking about placing barriers or anything like that. This is a facility that is managed by the VA. It's a federal facility that has standards for the management of their health care. They have VA police on site. They have their own administration. The staff is informed on exactly where they need to go and how they need to park and what accesses they're supposed to use. And on top of that, there's some signage that we can introduce for the directional approaches. But at the end of the day, naturally, there's going to be some traffic circulation that occurs because it's just human nature. But that belies the fact that what's important from the VA's perspective is that they can identify that there is a designated access in that regard. And for us to not be able to do that is going to be a violation of our lease. It's going to be unacceptable to the VA, and it basically is going to put us in breach. And if that happens, the project doesn't move forward. So I don't want to overemphasize that too much, but at the end of the day, I think it's important for you to all know that. And what we're also doing, though, remember what I said before, we referred to a number of different consultants, and we analyzed the site, and we looked at what was the impact and who would be the appropriate authority that could potentially sit there and advise us on what could be happening. And Andre's going to be speaking to this in a little bit, I think, but we did a serious traffic impact analysis, and there were a number of jurisdictions that reviewed all of this, so that hopefully when we made and met the compliance and got the award as we did here today, we're able to deliver. If we didn't have that, the award would not have been made. And so I just want to emphasize that to you. Having said that, I think it's appropriate probably in transition here for me to turn it over to Morgan so that he can further explain why this project is so important and how we arrived at it, and summarize the project himself. And I think after that, we're going to let Andre take whatever he needs to do as well.
Second, typically we allow 10 minutes for presentation. If 10 minutes is up, I'll ask staff, y'all mind if we let them continue? We'll give you
Yeah, we
another
can be
10
brief.
minutes at least.
Yeah, we'll be brief. Yeah. Thank you. And thank you, commissioners, for hearing us this evening. We're very excited to bring this project, this VA, to the city of St. George. And I want to start off real quick this presentation or my portion of the presentation, to kind of show the need, where the VA is right now, where they're going, and what steps we can take to get the VA and our veterans to where they need to go to bring world-class health care and expanded and consolidated services to Baton Rouge VA in City of St. George. So on the screen right now, we have the current setup for the VA. It's 2 sites spread out by about, I think it's a mile, for veterans, which we've found out is oftentimes the case. Veterans will try to book their appointments in one day, multi-specialty appointments, so they can get everything done in one day. And this current setup creates a real challenge for transportation, and especially the families of those veterans who are maybe taking a day off to give them transportation to and from their appointments for the day. This is a very difficult situation, and a situation that led to the VA initiating their solicitation for proposals to bring this new facility to St. George. Like I said, it's two buildings, 2 sites. It creates logistics challenges as well, staffing challenges, and we have heard from the VA that these facilities are at capacity, and that they are actually now having to send patients, veterans, to the New Orleans Medical Center for services that they could otherwise receive in Baton Rouge. And especially for the veterans of the East Baton Rouge Parish, this is incredibly important that they receive access to those services as soon as possible. There's a very urgent need. We have heard from senior Baton Rouge VA leadership that they've been waiting for a facility like this for 15 years. And so it's not lost on us that this has been a long time coming for these folks. As part of the VA solicitation process, they established a delineated area throughout the East Baton Rouge Parish. They evaluated sites throughout the parish, looking for critical site factors such as proximity to the major thoroughfares, PQ, and the I-10 interchange was a predominant reason why they selected this site, because their existing North Baton Rouge VA site is adjacent to Interstate 10. They also look at multiple points of access. They look for 3. I'll show you here in a few minutes some of our other facilities developed for the VA in which they expect to have 3 points of access for the separation of staff, visitor, and logistics traffic. And the VA also looks for adjacent complementary amenities such as retail, dining, and service for veterans visiting the area. VA did review our site multiple times. It goes through an initial proposal phase, a revised proposal phase, and they give us comments on our site. And so if we are not in compliance with what they're expecting to see, they'll let us know, and we have the opportunity to correct it. We did correct comments multiple times, resulting in the site plan you have before you today, and what the VA has accepted for this new facility. I apologize. Technical, there we go. So the government reviews and approvals process is a very long one. 15 years of VA planning, from VA senior leadership, the VA secretary, strategic capital planning, all the way through the development of the request for lease proposal, through their evaluation and the multiple rounds of evaluation I mentioned before, all the way to lease award, which is where we're at now. We're in the post-lease award phase. We have an executed contract, we have a lease, and now we're executing on that lease. Congressional action was required. They received congressional approval, Congress appropriated funding, and it is a done deal through legislation in Congress. This will be, and I have some renderings of the site, I apologize. So site design, it's a 10.9 acre site within a half a mile of the I-10 PQ interchange. As I noted, there are 3 points of access. We'll see if my pointer's not really working. Our primary access is off of Rieger Road. Staff access is off of the southernmost, that's Plan West, PQ lane, right in, right out, and then a logistics access on the north, the top right corner of this rendering. That's where our logistics and service traffic and the ambulance traffic will come in. It's very important to the VA that they have distinct on-site circulation for these uses. Additionally, we have a 310-foot building setback to the Woodbridge residences, so a very large setback. And it's only a 2-story building, so we believe that is a more than appropriate building setback. This will be a clean and safe and a beautiful campus. This is a VA, this is a federal facility. There is 24/7 VA police monitoring, facilities management to keep this site very clean and tidy. And we also have robust landscaping to promote a healing environment for our veterans and staff. It is a 100, oh, I'm sorry, wrong way. Excuse me. Got to figure out the angle. It's a 120,000 square foot building to consolidate the services previously mentioned. This is essential to providing care for veterans, as they will no longer have to transit between 2 different sites, and they will have access to even greater expanded services here at this facility. It's a modern architectural palette leaning into contemporary healthcare design, moving away from institutional and more towards hospitality and care for veterans. I'll very quickly show you some renderings of the interior lobby, and then I'll pass it over to Andre, who can speak on the technical details of this facility. So this is the main welcome lobby. We have excellent wayfinding design, bright natural lighting for both patient areas and staff areas. The primary care areas will have natural lighting as well. And I'll go to the next slide to show the second floor, intuitive wayfinding for those working. So here's an example of our other facilities in which we have separation of patient, staff, and service traffic. This is Fredericksburg, as George mentioned, largest healthcare center in the nation. And we also have the Myrtle Beach VA, which also shows 3 distinct entrances, similar in size. And so I'll just conclude my my portion of the presentation by saying that it's absolutely essential, and we request that the commissioners and the board grant us the site plan approval with the 3 accesses shown, the 2 right-in, right-outs on PQ Lane and the full access curb cut on Rieger Road. And as Andre will mention here in a moment, the traffic study does confirm that there are no negligible impacts to the existing traffic conditions, as well as no stacking issues up into the intersection of PQ and I-10. And the Louisiana Department of Transportation and Development has concurred with this approach via the approval letter that they issued to us. I believe it was 4 or so weeks ago. I will now pass over to Andre to speak on the technical. Yes. This is a similar size to the Baton Rouge VA. This is about 125,000 square feet, gross square feet. And VA Baton Rouge is 120.
So no time is short here on a presentation, so I'll make it quick. So from a technical standpoint, this site and facility in Baton Rouge will have 600 parking spots to accommodate both visitor, staff, and patients throughout the site itself. As they mentioned, it's just under 11 acres. With this development, we are proposing to put in a stormwater basin that will not only serve this site, but also additional acreage and areas in the area. We look at it as more as a regional stormwater management facility that with peak flows, looking at fully developed flows for the entire area that's draining right now through this area. You had something further?
No.
Okay. Draining further from west to east with portions of it going through Woodridge subdivision. As Woodridge subdivision was created, there were provisions put in place to accommodate the flow. The natural flow was going overland through that area. As it was developed, they were put in certain outfall points. With this development here, we're looking to reduce the peak flows going out to those outfall points anywhere from 10% up to 87%. That's reduction. That's not an addition. That's a reduction in flow. With that will also be the amount of volume flow that's going to be going downstream. It'll be spanned out over a longer period, so therefore having no adverse impacts to any of the systems downstream of this. That's all in conformance for both for 2, 10, 25, and 100-year events in accordance with the St. George UDC. We also performed a traffic impact study, which is not required by the City of St. George. We went above and beyond that because when we reached out to DOTD, they asked us to look at the capacity impacts for the signals at Rieger and PQ Lane and also Airline and PQ Lane. We did that in accordance with their criteria. We coordinated with the City of St. George traffic engineering to identify what developments have been approved along Rieger Road so that we could put those in our existing and no-build conditions. We evaluated that in both existing no-build and also put in a 2% growth all the way to the year 2031 to prove that we have no impact to the signals at both of those intersections. We further laid out the layout of our driveway on Rieger Road, which will be our full access, allows us for left in, right out to come into there. So that is well beyond any queuing in those proposed full build-out conditions. We have maximized our most effectively layout of our driveway and access connection points. They do not violate any state, federal, or policies that we have that we know from ASHTO, DOTD, or Federal Highway Administration. And with that, I'll leave it up to any questions.
Thank you for the presentation. I think this is a wonderful project, and
I have a quick question. Back to the Myrtle Beach one, you had the speed limit sign, or the speed limit for one of the roads, the two access, side of the two access points was on 30 miles an hour. What was the speed limit for the other road, whether it was a single access?
I don't recall off the top of my head. That was a different project. I'm sorry, Andre wasn't involved in that one either.
questions, commissioners?
I don't, just my ignorance of the process. Why wouldn't this be an access, this be an access, this be an access, this be an access?
Well, that's, VA looks for 3 points of connection on a thoroughfare, and that is technically a driveway. So while it does look like that would satisfy the requirement, in fact, it does force staff and logistics traffic to share one curb cut on PQ. So that top left, sorry, my pointer doesn't point to it, but this one here, staff and logistics traffic would still have to share that access point, creating a conflict in the eyes of the VA.
And technically, that's only an access in the eyes of the VA. Because it's shared drive. At this point, it is not, but if it has to be at some point in the future, we could always address it then. Whatever the needs are. And we'd have to, I mean, but I don't think this is, which one are you talking about, by the way? Yeah, that would never, our main entrance could not be a shared entrance drive. Say that again, I'm sorry.
If you keep saying that you need 3 separate entrances, one for staff, one for service and ambulances, and one for visitors.
Correct.
But your whole parking lot is accessible from any one of the 3 entrances or exits.
But the point is that they need to know that there's an entrance that could be direct to the staff, and there's an entrance that's direct to the facility. That's what they're looking, that's the criteria. And there's an entrance direct for the service. If you eliminate any one of those, there, as I indicated, the VA is going to inform all of their staff exactly where they have to park and how they have to access the facility.
If I could jump in real quick, I think the point is that these are not exclusive accesses. VIA doesn't institute exclusive curb cuts, but they provide additional curb cuts so that with directional signage, they can direct their staff, their logistics traffic, and their visitors for a more safe and efficient operation, because they don't want dumpsters or 18-wheelers interfacing with two passengers, or sorry, two passenger vehicles.
True, but again, it was the criteria that the VA established, not us. This is not necessarily something that we prefer. I mean, typical office hours, I think, but from 8 or 9 until 6.
I think it was 7:30 to 4.
7:30 to 4.
Yeah, at least that's the current operation of VA facilities in this area is 7:30 to 4 p.m.
So you have somebody that's working, full-time job there, they're gonna come in the morning and then leave in the evening. You're not gonna have, ambulances coming before they come, or when they come, and then they leave, they'll be coming in between that time, right?
Well, I think ambulance is also, the service curb cut is ambulances and like 18-wheelers and dumpsters, or dump truck, not dump truck, sorry, garbage trucks. So we're not necessarily being explicit about, when will the ambulance come or when will it won't, when will it not. The ambulance is also only gonna be picking up, so it's hard to predict when exactly the ambulance would come. It's probably infrequent, but what it will be very frequent is the 18-wheelers and the dumpster, the garbage vehicles. And that's what we don't want to interface with the staff or visitors.
Questions, commissioners? If y'all don't mind, I've got some speakers that want to speak on this. If y'all don't mind taking a seat, we'll open the public hearing and we'll call y'all back in a little bit.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Kevin Giat?
I apologize for jumping the gun. I was speaking on the wrong, on the wrong thing, but, I hope y'all accept my apology. So I know y'all were saying that there was y'all did something more than a 10-year flood plan. My next door neighbor is actually, they're trying to purchase some of his property to be able to access a big catch basin that we have on his property and my property. And, he was presented showing the stormwater basin, but it was basically a 10-year summary. So I'm curious to see if y'all have something that goes out past 10 years, can that be provided? Because what was provided to my neighbor, it's showing a 10-year summary, not 20, 25 or anything, extending that. One of my questions I have is, will this retention pond, if it's put in, will it have a levee put around it? And how high would that be? Because this thing is gonna be right behind my house. So, I know most retention ponds, they basically have some type of levee around it to keep it, if it does get above a certain level, so it just don't burst. I don't know if that can be provided. I'm not too interested in looking at a 10-foot levee, behind my house. So, another question I had is, it's pretty much, you have a lot of people that's going to be affected by this retention pond. But they've only reached out to my neighbor, because they're trying to purchase property from him. No other person that is behind this retention pond has been notified or provided any information. I have this information due to the fact that he's my neighbor. So, like I said, my main concern is flooding. I like all the, the design. I mean, I'm very, I'm pro VA, but at the end of the day, all this stuff being done, if it affects, my property and I flood again, I'm already, got a red flag on me because we flooded in 2021, with the development of this. So, I'm not in a flood zone. Thank God I had flood insurance. And like I said, my main concern is, is flooding. I mean, all this other stuff, I think the traffic, it's going to increase, but I mean, that comes with all these developments. I mean, we have to understand the city's growing. I don't think anybody fusses about that. It looks like they have a good plan set up. I mean, with the greenery, the setback of 310 feet, I think that's going to give us some type of buffer zone, but like I said, it's the flooding that I think needs to really be, looked at and make sure that we don't flood. Because once this thing's built, what they gonna do? Tell us we're sorry. We messed up. I mean, that happens all the time. So all I ask is, if they can do their due diligence and, provide us with something that's more than a 10-year plan. I mean, I'm hearing these people, talk about we did a 25-year plan, we did a 100-year plan. Well, where's that data? How can I access the data and look at it? That's my main concern. Thank y'all.
Thank you for your comments. Mr. Brian Esnault.
Good evening, council members. Thank you for having me today. And
State your name and address, please, sir.
My name is Brian Esnault. I live at 9031 Glenfield Drive in Woodridge subdivision. I've submitted a written comment with a full technical basis, so I'll keep this brief just to give you the heart of it. Back of my property line is the Woodridge detention pond, the existing pond behind our homes, not the new basin being built on this site. Our pond will receive the runoff from this development. I'm a licensed professional engineer, have read Stantec's drainage study in full. I'm not here to oppose the VA clinic. I'm here about one specific gap in the analysis. The study proves one thing well: the peak rate of runoff leaving this site is held to below what leaves today. That is real, I don't dispute that. But the peak rate alone is not what raises our pond. It drains slowly to Briarwood, then to Ward Creek. It is outflow limited. For a pond like that, the high water mark is set by the total volume of water that arrives before it can drain. not by how sharp the peak rate is. And the volume going into our pond will go up, more than it reaches today. Part of that is simple. More pavement means more runoff. Well, there's more to it. The proposed design takes two outfalls, D and G, that today bypass our pond and routes them into it instead. In 2016 and again in 2021, that pond rose to within about a foot of our yards. The study never answers the one question that matters to the homes along our pond, and that is, will it rise higher than it does today? It measures the rate at the property line and stops there. It never routes the pond itself. So I'm asking for one thing. The staff is already recommending approval with conditions. I ask that you add one more. That before permits issue, the applicant demonstrate, using the model they've already built, that the Woodridge Pond's peak water level will not increase. Reference to our adjacent yard elevations for the 2 through 100-year storms. If that cannot be shown before you vote, then I ask that you defer this item until it can. This is a small, verifiable addition. It does not stop the project. It simply confirms that the pond behind our homes will not sit higher than it already has. Thank you.
Yes. Margaret Hale?
Good evening. I'm Margaret Hale, 8662 Foxfield Drive. I'm lot 146. I have just a couple of questions. I heard for the first time 18-wheelers are going to be accessing. Wanted to know where that is, because I believe 146 is directly behind the actual building. So I didn't know if it's going to go between the building and my lot, or is it going to be on a side? So that's a question I have. Is there going to be parking maybe in the back? I don't know if there's been no talk of parking lot lighting and where those will be placed, if at all. And if the folks who did the traffic surveys have not been on PQ between about 3:30 in the afternoon during the weekdays to about 6 o'clock at night, they know 2 lanes of nobody's movement before you get to the Riga Road light all the way up to Airline. So that becomes a challenge, because obviously there'll be more traffic because of this. I don't have a problem with this. I just have a couple of questions.
Ma'am, maybe the developer will address your questions a little later, but we really don't answer questions.
That's fine, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you again, everyone, for the opportunity to speak. I'll echo some of what the other residents were talking about. The big concerns we have, of course, would be the traffic and the drainage. Regarding an informal traffic study, I live on Woodridge, okay? And I'll echo what the lady just spoke about, same thing. One afternoon, I sat in my front lawn, in my lawn chair, and counted the cars coming in from Piku. And out of about 90 cars, 7 or 8 of them turned into one of our subdivision streets. Most of them went all the way to the end, turned on Grandview, and more than likely went on Minu into Briarwood to get out. I'll echo what I said, when you're trying to come in on Piku from Airline, both lanes in the afternoon are full. So traffic there, so I don't know if that was even performed in the traffic study. That was an analysis. I think you might have done it on Piku. But some of that definitely needs to be looked at. And regarding the traffic light at Piku and Airline, same thing. I travel that area every afternoon about 1:45, 1:50, pick up my son, who's off of Jefferson Highway on the other side. And depending on the response time of the drivers in front of you, 3, possibly 4 cars can safely make it across that intersection before that light turns red. And many cars are traveling on yellow and sometimes many times on red going across there. So some of that thing needs to be mitigated there. I don't know if that was taken care of in the study there. I'll also echo the drainage things again. Same thing We got to find out, we don't want to have a repeat problem. What Mr. Giat was talking about, the overflow problem into Briar Lake subdivision, where our retention pond overflows into Briar Lakes. That's been overgrown with vegetation now for quite some time. There's trees overgrown on the side of it, as well as just weeds and all just silt and all built up into that. So we're worried that, some of that might tend to be a detriment to our pond overflowing again when it needs to. Thank you very much.
Did y'all hear me? The problem that we have is the site plan as a whole. It just keeps changing. Like today was the first time we heard about the 18-wheelers. It started out, there was going to be one entrance, and that was Riga Road. Now, then it was going to be two exits out of the VA. Then I hear today, it's in and out of the VA. And like I said, everybody loves the veterans. I have many members of my family that have served honorably. The problem is that our properties never flooded until the Klein Peters started building. And there were 8 houses that flooded on PQ Lane, not PQ Lane, on Woodridge, and I don't know about Foxgate. Kevin lives maybe 5 houses down from me, and he watched it and he pointed it out to me. At first, I'm getting this deluge of water coming, and it's washing out my fence. I had to put 5 by 8 blocks under my fence to keep my dog in. Then, and Kevin was kind of okay. Now it's reversed itself. Kevin gets most of the flood water, and I get a buildup of silt. And nothing has ever been done to address this problem. Like I said, until the Klein Peters started building, none of this ever happened. Friday night, 2 weeks ago, I was going to meet some folks for dinner, and I got caught in an absolute deluge at Rieger and PQ. So I saw all this traffic. I'm going, Friday night at 7:30, all this, and I said, okay, I'm gonna count. Well, I couldn't count in both directions, and I'd already started counting from Airline Highway. That's non-peak hours. That was over 100 cars that had passed me in a deluge of rain at 7:30 on a Friday night. The other thing is, we have a problem with the traffic study. I think the traffic study was, first of all, Mr. Rayford said, oh, he's going to give all the locals time to get used to it. 20 more seconds? Okay. Time to get used to it, but then within a week, the traffic study was done. And also, I was talking about the overburdening of our system of drainage, not only just the retention pond, but they're using our already overburdened drainage, and we would like them to have to make some modifications since it's their wastewater that's dumping in through our system, if that's at all possible. But I guess my time is up, and I'm
Yes,
sorry.
ma'am. Thank you for your comments.
Thank you, sir, for letting me.
Anyone else want to comment? State your name and address, please, sir.
Edwin Closter, 9038 Foxgate Drive. Every time I come to one of these meetings, I come away with more questions than answers. And I know that this is supposed to be a comment section, but as long as we have the people here from Carnegie, I'm going to ask some questions and see if they'll answer any of them. They say that they're going to have a 20-year lease. That's wonderful. What happens in year 21? What's going to happen to the two buildings that the VA will now be vacating? It's going to look like the malls. We're just going to have empty buildings standing around. I would expect that they're going to be responsible for the retention ponds and maintaining them, but I haven't heard any guarantees on that. And I would hope that your commissioners, that you will take that into account and make sure that they are responsible for as long as this facility is there. As far as the traffic, you've heard all of us tell you that there's an issue with the traffic. And as she was just trying to point out to you, the traffic study that was done before even all the street signs were put up for the highway. I don't believe that that's a fair traffic study. The traffic study should be done not during the summer when people are on vacation. It should be done during the school year when we have our normal traffic flow. I would ask that that traffic study be redone during that time period. Again, and I apologize, it just seems like every time I come here there's more questions than answers, so I didn't come with that prepared statement as such because I didn't know exactly what was going to be going on. I did notice on their slide on the lovely property in Virginia that there appeared to be a lot of green space.
Y'all mind being quiet, please?
And I'm wondering where our green space is going to be. The beautiful drawing that they put up there of the VA building doesn't show behind it a grocery store and office buildings. No parking lot that's shown behind there because they don't want us to be aware of this. We know it's there. We know it's in their plans. They apparently only build the VA, but I am concerned, is that all that they're going to build as a VA, or do they also profit from the other areas that are being built up on this property? I thank you all for your time.
Thank you for your comments, sir. Any other comments? There being none, we'll close the public hearing. We'll ask our staff engineer to come up, please. Yeah, we'll get to. This is the City of St. George staff engineers
Good evening.
and staff.
We were just offering any questions that you may have.
First question I got to ask for you is, they said they had DOTD approval for the 3 entryways on. Is that correct, or did they only have DOT approval to do these interchanges that close to interstate?
DOTD reviews it from their jurisdiction, which they have a control of access in one quadrant. Also, any development within a quarter of a mile of a control of access of their type of right-of-way, which controls access, they require it, and they look at the impacts that they have on the interchange itself. They did evaluate it from the standpoint of the impact on their signal here at Rieger because they control that to synchronize it with the interchange itself. But the access points, they're not reviewing it from that standpoint necessarily because that's not their road.
Does the City of St. George control the light at Rieger, or does the DOTD control it?
DOTD.
DOT. Staff, y'all got any questions for Stephanie?
Well, I noticed in the staff comments that one of them was to modify that entrance on Rieger if maybe
Necessary.
if necessary.
Mm-hmm.
And they're saying they can't do that.
I do believe that they acknowledged that comment. They can confirm that at the end, but that was the temporary access for the Riga Road. They did acknowledge that it could potentially have cross access with the southern property if needed in the future.
Oh, that's not the main entrance, though. The main entrance is here.
I think their main entrance for visitors is actually on Riga Road.
I thought he said they wouldn't be able to do it.
I think main entrance is on Riga Road.
I know, but I thought he said that they couldn't combine with future. I'll ask him in a second.
Stephanie, there was a question on drainage. The drainage study is based on a 25-year storm, is that correct?
Yes, sir. The drainage study is in compliance with all of the city of St. George's requirements, yes. It was 25 year.
So did they do the formal drainage study already? They presented it to y'all, or is it just a preliminary drainage study?
They do formal drainage study that was
And it
reviewed.
complies with all City of St. George ordinances?
Yes, but as the gentleman in the purple shirt suggested, to evaluate further negative impacts to adjacent ponds, I think that's a fair suggestion as we move into construction plans to have an additional analysis shown.
Doesn't ordinance require zero net increase in the existing downstream elevations?
But just if they're in their construction plan approval, we could just ask them to provide that, specific to the pond, that there's no rise. And I mean, the only thing we can say is that if there's maintenance issues in the pond and there's something there, we could just require that they offset any impacts to the pond and that show no rise. I think it's fair.
Okay. Y'all have any other comments, staff? Y'all got any other questions? Well,
Sure. Want to cover, like, seems to be the main comment. It's just this, the third access that I think is supposed to be dedicated to fire truck and ambulance. Can you just explain from an engineering standpoint just the problems that we're looking at that causing, or the issues that would cause from a traffic standpoint?
So this one's the one that we're talking about, right?
Yes. The southernmost access point, essentially it's a 3-lane highway, and it is a posted speed of, I believe, 40 or 45 miles per hour, but they fly. We know that they're speeding, so we have seen that there's a few accidents that happen because specifically that lane drops off into Woodridge subdivision.
I think the posted limit is 45.
And so, just the slamming of the brakes closer to the intersection, our original recommendation is to choose between one or the other. And to be honest, if there's not a gate to restrict and enforce that you only have a certain type of vehicle, who passes up the first entrance and goes to the second one on the same road. So we would anticipate that the majority of the traffic is going to use the right. I do understand that they are going to specifically regulate, tell the staff to go to the back entrance and ambulance and truck, but I think the majority of traffic, visitors and others, will use that entry point. So if, that one on the north side is rarely used, you have the one on the southern side where people are going faster and, potentially a safety issue. No, I do believe that they did the traffic study in advance of summer. It was not during summer. So I believe schools were still in session. LADOT requires them to do the study during school. Who? Oh. Stephanie Phillips.
Alex Shortis.
the way that it's laid out today, I don't know how you enforce that that is a fire truck ambulance. Passenger says and bus vehicle route, but what I was told was that one was supposed to be limited to the ambulance and fire truck, you know, without a gate. And I believe after conversations with them, they were not planning on putting up any kind of access gates. I do believe that they mentioned signage or something. Bryant had mentioned that.
Thank y'all. We appreciate y'all comment.
No problem. And
Thank you.
there's always workable solutions, you know, but
Yeah.
the engineers would have to speak to that.
All right, thank y'all.
Thank you.
If the applicant would like to come back up and respond, please.
LLC. I would like to make part of the record 4 exhibits. The first one is the letter of the applicant dated June 10th, 2026 to the engineering department at St. George, which was not responded to. The second is the permanent approval of the Louisiana Department of Transportation and Development. And on that subject, to your question, Mr. Aguilar, the language in this says permit is approved based on the attached layout, which is the layout that we have, showing 2 paved right-in, right-out driveways accessing Piku Lane and 1 paved full access driveway accessing Riga Road. And Louisiana Department of Transportation and Development is the entity under whose auspices this whole area was designed, and they do have jurisdiction within that area from the interstate. The third thing is there's a complete copy of the presentation that is Exhibit 3. And the last thing is, I think maybe it was glossed over, but as Exhibit 4, I'm introducing the entirety of, you can go on the website of the VA to see what it takes for these approval of these projects, and it was mentioned that it took 15 years. There's an 11-phase process to get this done, and you can see if you look at the list, it's multiple years, and when the applicant said, this isn't our requirements, it's the VA's requirements. If it was a question of the applicant saying, well, can I cut it to 2? And the applicant didn't have to go to the VA, and they'd say, no, we approved it at 3. We got to go through the whole process again, rebid, et cetera. You're out. You don't comply. Then maybe we could talk about it. But it's not something we can talk about. It's up to the VA. And everybody, you know, says, hey, we love veterans. And I think we all do. I think we mean that. But the fact is, I'm here to tell you, if this site plan is not approved as has been presented with 3 entrances and exits as shown on the site plan, it's going to kill the deal. It's not, oh, we go back to the VA. It's done. It's over with. And no matter how much you love veterans, I mean, to me, that's, you know, that's slapping them in the face. You may as well go out in the parking lot and throw an apple pie at mom. I mean, I don't think anybody here wants to do that. Our hands are tied. And we have not heard through this whole process, and even tonight, St. George articulate a rational basis to deny this, or to require removal of one of these access drives to support the safety, health, morals, and welfare of St. George subdivision, or St. George City. Certainly, you know, if we didn't have any entrances and exits and you had to walk to that location, it'd be safer for the people that use the street, because there wouldn't be any cars at all. I mean, I think we all get that. And we talk about traffic. Traffic is a problem. We've lived with it all our lives, some of us longer than others. It's a sad fact that, you know, people get in their cars and drive everywhere. But, you know, the fact that we've got traffic and you have to handle safe entrances and exits from a piece of property, you can't just say, well, you can do with two. Well, you know, on what basis is that? And, you know, we were told that there was going to be a conversation with city leadership, because city leadership, whoever that is, likes really focused on safety as a conflict point and just reducing that as much as possible. I don't know who those people are. I would submit to you that y'all are city leadership, because it's your job as appointed on this commission to approve or disapprove this site plan. And I don't think you want to kill the deal. But if you don't approve it, if you accept that condition, you're killing it. I'm telling you. And there's one other thing that I want to address. Did you want to ask a question? I'm sorry. Okay. There's one other condition that was recommended by in item 13 by the staff report, and that was that the zoning be designated before a permit is, I guess, can I have a couple of more minutes? I know, my point is it doesn't need to be a condition of this site plan approval. Under the C1, C2, or MX3 or MX4, pick one, this fully complies with any of those. So,
I think it does, okay, and I'm gonna tell you why. Because right now, City of St. George eliminated C2 zoning. And I think this part of the property was not approved, or the whole thing wasn't approved by City Council 2 weeks ago. So this property really has no zoning.
we could get into a legal argument with that, and I've had that discussion with Mr.
Okay.
Malkin. You can say it has no zoning or it has the original zoning.
You a lawyer, I'm not, but I'm just telling you where we're coming from.
But my point is, this development complies with the zoning, whether it's C1, C2, Old East Baton Rouge Parish, or MX3, MX4. Yeah, and so I'm representing to you that that does not need to be made a condition of this permit. So I would ask y'all to, let's do what we want to do for the veterans. Let's approve this new facilities. Let's do it without those two conditions, because otherwise it's just not going to be built. And I know there were some questions about the drainage and the traffic that I'm certainly not qualified to address. If you want Mr. Roderick to address those.
Question. Would y'all be willing to defer this? We can sit down with city engineer, some council members, some people on the staff here, and discuss what we can do with the middle entrance to make it work. I think that's a workable solution, but as it is now, I don't think it's workable.
The only problem with your suggestion, which is a good one, is that the timetable that it's on we won't get this approval, we won't get started in time for it not to kill the deal. It's, I believe. And I guess the question back to you, if we're talking about moving that, or if we're talking about signage, those kinds of things, I think we've already indicated it's not an issue, but if we're talking about moving that location, again, we're handcuffed by the VA. It's not that we don't want to talk about
Okay,
it.
let me rush it up for you. It goes to the council meeting. What's the date of the next council meeting this would go to? I know, but the zoning that comes up next is decided at the council meeting, okay? So the zoning could shut it down too, correct? I doubt it would, but yeah, it could. So I guess my deal won't work, so.
Thanks for trying.
I'm trying to make something happen here so we can.
Was there any question on the traffic study or the?
If y'all don't mind, let me bring our city engineer, Stephanie, would you mind coming, but she's still here? She left? Thank you, gentlemen. I'll get you back up here in a second. Stephanie, question for you. They said that DOT gave them the approval to do the curb cuts on PQ. Is that DOTD doing that, or is it City of St. George doing that?
They are looking at it from their jurisdictional standpoint.
Their jurisdictional?
Their control of access and right-of-way ends at the signal itself.
At the signal?
Correct. We own the road of PQ, starting at Rieger to the north to Airline. But
Okay,
they're
so-
looking at the impacts of the access points on that intersection, the interchange, and the signal of Airline in PQ. Does that make sense? Because
Yeah,
they
that's
own
what DOTD is looking at,
Airline.
but we have to do the curb cuts for PQ, right? Correct?
The curb cut permits and access connections go through the city of St. George because those roads are owned by the city. We did have a meeting and I can confirm that they approved the development as it would impact their jurisdiction.
Okay, what can we do to do the middle entry, exit, to minimize traffic accidents for people rear-ending people stopping to turn into the site?
Typically, a deceleration lane would be provided. The geometry is a little complicated here because
Well, you got a turning lane going in the.
it's already a turning bay, and you have two straight lanes next to it, correct? So it's already 3 lanes, which would create another weave into traffic if you're exiting and trying to get into the straight movement, right? So, but I mean, a decel lane would typically be what you would do here to, be able to get off and not get a bunch of rear ends.
So you'd need a deceleration and an acceleration lane on the exit coming out also.
If you're going to weave into that traffic, but I mean, it's
I
at
think you need it-
capacity, so
you
it's not, it's saturated flow right now. It stacks, it stacks already. So the through lanes are at capacity.
The 3 lanes are at capacity.
In the peak hour. Now, we do have, we're evaluating the intersection of Airline and PQ right now from a signal timing standpoint to try to give some suggestions to LADOTD and EBR as it relates to that signal. Because we understand that, outside of this development, there's already, an existing issue with that signal. So.
Let me add, is the applicant engineer here? The applicant's engineer here? Do you see a way to make this thing work?
So the location of the drives are at optimal locations. The frontage along PQ is almost 600 feet long. The zone of influence from the intersection itself is a little over 100 feet. The first south drive is about 130, 140 feet, almost, between 175, 150, 40 feet from that interchange. So it is at an optimal location. As you noted, the third lane on PQ Lane is a de facto decel lane itself. It is what we call a weave lane. It allows traffic to come in and off and then weave into the thoroughfare, the main travel lanes, the two lanes on the left side of PQ going northbound. Adding another decel SL lane onto that would just cause further, in my opinion, further conflicts or safety issues in regards to that. In addition to that, the northern location of it is again at an optimal, it's about midway point from the existing, or from the Riga Road intersection to where the Woodridge Avenue intersection is. So the point of it being shared is that recognizing we do not, it would be very unlikely to get an access drive that close to the intersection of those two. So this would be the primary point for that property, whatever it's developed, whatever it may be, and when it may be. That would be the only way to access it. Otherwise, you would basically render that property. You would take away his bona fide rights of having access.
All right, thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
I have a question. Why can't you just move this down here?
You do not want to have two driveways connecting that close together.
Why couldn't you put it here?
You want to have them as separated as far as possible, and that is about as equal.
Unless it's dangerous.
If you have them too close together, you have 2 points of conflict that are going to get too close together. You have sight distance, you have sight triangles. You typically want to have about 200 feet between driveways.
Because we all know this is gonna be the main entrance right here.
That will be right in, right out.
Whether or not you call it your main entrance, this is gonna be the entrance that everybody uses.
That will be people that are wanting to go northbound. I won't disagree with that. People that are wanting to go southbound, they cannot utilize that. If they want to go back to the interstate, they will not use that whatsoever. And I believe that the majority of the traffic flow that's coming through here is coming from the interstate.
Yeah, but if,
And they're going to want to go back to the interstate. So therefore, they're going to utilize Riga Road.
I just think this is gonna be the main entrance. Is there, and if it wasn't, if it's not as attractive to be just right in front, and it's staggered off some, maybe it'll deter some people from using it, if it doesn't look like a main entrance, because it's
That
gonna
would-
look like a main entrance.
Well, welcome to my world of trying to figure out how to lay out a building so that it is attractive, so that people can recognize it. The reason why this was facing south towards Riga Road is so people who are coming off the interstate, they can see it and recognize it and identify where the front door of this is going to be is off of Riga Road. We purposely did not place it facing PQ Lane just for what you stated. We did not want to identify PQ Lane as the front door or main access. But it is beneficial because if we do not have these three access, it disrupts our traffic distribution and patterns that go through there that then conversely can have an adverse impact on the queuing and stacking of the traffic signals at PQ and Riga Lane. The most effective way to diversify the traffic before it gets into the public right-of-way is to provide strategic location of driveways. You add more in a strategic, safe location, and that's not what we're presented here.
Andre, this may not be for you, it may be for the representative from Carnegie, but is there, just looking at a way for us to potentially see this through and move forward with something tonight that we can possibly work on in the future? I know that you guys were saying that potentially this is a part of your lease that was somewhat of a contract, correct? You were saying that the lease is somewhat of like a contract for you guys? How difficult would it be if tonight we were able to approve the two locations that we all agree on and then have the third location up for debate on where that could be in the future?
Until there's a formal denial. In other words, if there's still that opportunity, we probably could work with that.
Okay. And then with the changing of that potential lease, once we come to some conclusion that works for both parties, about typically, or do you have a time frame of how long it may take, even if we get to the point where we're like, well, we wanted this works for us, we're willing to work with you guys to do this. If there was a point where we were like, it's not going to work, you can only have two, would it be difficult? How difficult would it be to change the lease?
Unfortunately, I don't think that would happen. I mean, that's, I don't see that occurring. I think that there would have to be some kind of accommodation for that third entrance, because it was the basis of the award. And for us to change the basis of the award changes the whole dynamic of the entire solicitation that everybody bargained for, everybody complied with. Now all of a sudden we're not doing that.
With the 3 entrances, is this just a general requirement for all VA clinics?
It's a yes. Well, the 3 entrances, I would say yes at a minimum. It's all a function of, again, separating the ability to have access to designated parking areas.
Maggie, can you pass him your mic? I'm sorry. Just so you're.
You hear that? Okay. Sorry. Yeah, so at any event, the 3 would be at a minimum, yes.
Okay, and just to, I appreciated what you referenced earlier, looking at the colors, just so everybody knows what I'm talking about, but the dumpster and 18-wheeler delivery routes, how that's dedicated as a shared drive. You were saying that the entry or access points have to be off of major roads.
Right of ways, yes.
If that was potentially not dedicated as a shared access drive, but as a street or another access point with the name or something of that nature, would that change the conversation on that being able to potentially be used as 2?
That's an interesting idea.
Because if it being shared is without a formal name or being designated as an actual street is potentially the issue, that could be something that we could potentially work on to get.
I mean, that's something we would look at.
Do you have a copy of the federal specifications that required 3 entrances?
Well, you have a copy of the criteria that was attached to my response.
You have a copy of the federal criteria that required
Yes,
the
the
3?
criteria that was attached to my letter.
It was
is the
attached to your letter to the
Yes,
staff?
Yes.
Okay.
So how did you get around the shared access, having 2.5?
Well, the shared one?
Yeah.
By having this one that's a right in, right out. That allowed us to have, they considered that additional right in, right out, and the proof that I had a reciprocal access agreement with the seller that guaranteed that we would continue to have that access in perpetuity for the use of the facility.
I think you said too earlier, what do you call your maintenance road?
Yes.
You would not be able to share that.
So I want to make sure I understood your question in that regard. Are we talking about interparcel connectivity, or are we talking about just sharing the drive for another parcel?
I think what I understand is sharing the drive with another person.
Sharing the drive for another. So for the purposes of this particular approval, we need to know that that drive, as it's shown, is approved. If there's a need in the future for that connection, we obviously don't know what the design is right now. We would look at it and how it could integrate with it to accommodate it.
It would require an adjustment to the site plan because I believe the right-of-way needed for a public street would be more than worth that.
Well, the public street would have to be pushed. We couldn't interfere with the way the site plan is right now, because if you notice, the property line comes right down the center of that street.
If it's public, you would be able to build it anywhere. You could shift the whole thing onto the other parcel.
That's what you'd have to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is acceptable for us.
So to just kind of go back, if not to hold it up, still try to move everything forward. It seems like we still all agree on 2 for right now, but we potentially have a solution that we can work through. If not tonight, then within the next couple of weeks, possibly, to kind of come to some point. Is that an option that we can possibly work through to look at addressing that shared access drive as an alternative in some way, shape, or form?
Yes, as long as we can keep moving forward with plan examination for the project, albeit maybe not for that intersection or that curb cut, yes.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
I don't know if we have to do it in any particular order. I was just taking notes.
We-
I'll take you and have Morgan take it.
We could be kind of informal right now. We just gonna ask you a few questions. Hopefully y'all can answer us. Okay, so according to what we just discussed, if we approve this with the two entrances and hold the third entrance approval out until we come to an agreement on what we're gonna do with it, if we either make that a road up there or whatever, is that acceptable to y'all?
A third entrance is going to be required, and we would need,
We're gonna approve it
evaluate.
somewhere or the other, but what I'm saying is, if we approve it right now to keep y'all moving forward, and they'll review the plans for construction plans
Yeah.
for you to keep that going.
Yes, as long as we're in a position to review how we could accommodate that third entrance, yes.
Brian, is that?
That works for me and planning staff. That's something that we can work with you guys with and try to come to some form of agreement on in the next week. Well, I'll say 2 weeks right now, but
Sooner the better for us, obviously.
I don't want to throw a monkey wrench in it.
mhm.
I just want to point out that that's going to require LRK to agree, because part of the public road now that would be dedicated to
If
be on
that-
their property. I don't anticipate that being a problem, but it will require their.
If that's the approach we take, yeah.
I think that, I love the project, I mean, it's a great project, and I think there's a way to maintain safety for people in St. George, and have this wonderful project, and I think we're on the way to do it, I think we can do it.
Okay, so a couple of the questions that were brought up, I'm going to address the concept of the 20-year lease, what happens afterwards. We certainly want them to be there ad infinitum and forever, and that's the approach that we take. Remember, we're the ones who own and manage it. We keep a pulse on the project. In fact, every one of our projects, they've never left. So for whatever that's worth, I think that's important to note. We're also responsible for maintaining it for its entire life. I mean, that's an asset that we keep. So we don't want it to be degraded in any form or fashion. We want to keep it maintained in a first-class condition, which is what we're obligated to do in the lease, but that's how we operate. That's who we are. So I don't see that as ever being a concern. As far as what happens elsewhere, I mean, as Lauren mentioned, I mean, to the north or northwest, I mean, there's things that are going on that we're not privy to and we don't have any control over. So, but as far as as far as the southern access point, we've had a lot of discussion about that. You know, one of the things that I see, just logically speaking, northbound traffic is coming to the PQ and Rieger intersection. There's a decision that needs to be made. You know, am I going straight or am I going right? We were hoping, as a way to try and augment this, is to place right at that corner a big sign that says, you know, Veterans Administration, visitors traffic this way, to the right. I think a lot of these kinds of things we can do very easily. I don't know if that addresses your concern, but those are the kinds of things that we'd like to talk when we get to the next phase here about this third entrance. And lastly, I think when it comes to the stormwater, which I want Andre to really get into, we maintain it, we're building it, we have to keep it in prime condition. We know that it's going to be there for other parcels, but despite that, it's still our obligation to maintain because we're most responsible and concerned about fulfilling our lease obligations with the VA. So just for whatever that's worth, again, that's not outsourced to anybody else. It is our responsibility throughout the life of the lease and for as long as we own the property. So I just want to make those are how I'd like to respond.
All for your comments, gentlemen. Hey, you know, we want Okay, just to assure y'all, we want this project to go forward somehow or the other. We want to make it work, okay? We're willing to work with you any way we can. I think there's a little traffic issue that we have with safety for life safety and welfare of the citizens driving through PICU. I think that's the biggest thing that we're worried about. I think we can work around that and make it work, okay? And if you got some other comments, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I'll keep my comments very brief. I just wanted to address the landscaping, or at least the property line with the Woodbridge subdivision. That's on the right side of this plan, the site map. We have, like I said earlier, 310 feet from the building to those residences, and we are also installing robust landscaping as a buffer between the loading dock, parking, and building. So our expectation was that the residences wouldn't have any adverse effects from the infrequent loading activities, and that the building would be visually screened. So, building, yeah, business hours anyways. So I'll let Andrew.
So there's 2 peak hours. So when and I was going to go into the traffic, there was a question about when it was done and was it in compliance with regulations. Yes, both DOTD and City of St. George, your UDC requirements on how to conduct a traffic study, we did it in compliance with that, with the time frames that were during school. We did it in April. That was after Easter. We made sure that it wasn't during the holiday, and it was 2 weeks after that. So it was in full flow. We studied traffic, did counts for 3 hours in the morning and 3 hours in the PM. Defined the traffic peak hour in the morning as 7:15 to 8:15 a.m. and then the PM from 4:15 to 5:15 p.m. And then, so that answers your question in regards to that. As far as drainage is concerned, I know there were several comments about drainage. We did provide a drainage impact study in accordance with the UDC for St. George that looked at the 2-year, 10-year, 25, and 100-year flows. In section 15 or 71515E, they identify with the criteria for stormwater management in design capacities. It's all based on peak flow rates. The question about the volume, we got the comments late last night. I reviewed them today with my team. We issued responses in regards to those comments, specifically about the volume. Anytime you do development, it will increase the amount of runoff because you can't, when you turn something that's pervious into pervious, you therefore can't put the water in the ground anymore. So therefore you create a storage basin that will detain it for a time duration that will meter or regulate the amount of flow that goes out into a time specified location. If downstream can't handle it, it cannot go anywhere. The impacts would be on the property itself that's holding the detention basin. That's why we have this detention basin size appropriately and as large as it is. There was a question about it having levees or being a wall of water or whatever next to the property. It is going to be excavated down. It is going to be an 8-foot dry detention basin. It will have grass during normal times and it will be allowed to fill up. It will connect to an existing ditch that's flowing underneath, cross drains that go underneath Riga right now. We're going to intercept that water and put it into a subsurface pipe system that ties into the existing public drainage servitude in Woodridge subdivision. In our due diligence and through this, we identified there was a gap in the servitude, that when the subdivision was created, they allowed for this water to come through into that pipe by excavating and creating a ditch and a point source that has been flowing that ever since the subdivision has been generated. But from a title standpoint, there was a servitude gap. So what the VA is doing, or the other developers are here, Carnegie are doing, is they're doing the job of, in lieu of the city, of going and securing that servitude so that it can be appropriately put into a drainage servitude for maintenance and conveyance down the future. In addition to that, they're eliminating the open ditch, which is the criteria that is stated in the UDC. They do not want any open ditches for conveyance of systems. Therefore, we are eliminating the open ditch, which then alludes to erosion control and other issues. It'll all be in a subsurface. It'll connect into an existing 20-foot public servitude that drains all the way down to the Woodridge stormwater basin. And again, we did look at that today. We were able to pull up some information in construction plans and determine that it will have the impact will be negligible on the stormwater basin that's going down there from a volume and peak flow rate standpoint. We did share that information with the Woodridge homeowners or Property Owners Association. We, matter of fact, gave a presentation to them. We gave them the full report, both traffic and stormwater management. So they have that record in addition to y'all have that information in your record. Let's see. I think that's it for now.
Almost, let me just assure the City of St. George citizens that, everything he's saying here is going to be reviewed by City of St. George staff. Our engineering staff is very good at traffic studies and very good at drainage studies. They're exceptional engineers and they do an excellent job. So I just want to assure y'all that if something is incorrect, they will make them redo the drainage study and make them redo the traffic study. So hopefully nobody ever floods in the City of St. George, but we know that that's not going to happen. But anyway, gentlemen, thank you. The commissioners, y'all got any questions? Mr. Bryant, if we're going to approve this thing contingent upon the northern entry exit and the Riga Road entry with the middle one left out for further study, you could be the lead contact person on this?
On this, I'll be lead on that.
In whatever meetings we have, I would like to attend them.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
And maybe one other commissioner, whichever other commissioner here wants to come. We can't have three of them because we'll have a quorum, but two of us would like to attend.
Yes.
And of course, we want Steffi there, and maybe
Stephanie
if
will
it gets
definitely
down
be
to it,
there.
we may need Mark there too for a minute. So with that, I'll make a motion. We approve this contingent upon the northern access point be allowed, the Riga Road access point be allowed, the middle access point be further studied. We'll try to have you an answer within 30 days. And according to staff recommendations, staff 13, to obtain city council approval of zoning designation for lot LRK, LC3, and detention infrastructure and pond and shared access parcels, complete dedication of existing gravity sewer servitude and establish public servitude to service the site, display all stormwater detention basin and drainage infrastructure at least necessary to serve the proposed development on permitting plans. I think permitting plans are under review now. And record and provide evidence of perpetual drainage servitudes benefiting proposed development over detention parcels encompassing the proposed detention ponds and the proposed drainage infrastructure leading to the detention pond. And also complete construction of stormwater detention basin and drainage infrastructure as necessary to serve the proposed development, and record all required reciprocal access and cross-access agreements associated with shared access drive. I'll motion to approve contingent upon all those items. I said, excuse me, it's the east, the east entrance and the Riga Road entrance. Is that correct? Yeah, that's east. The north one. The north one's not east. It's
south and plan north.
Northwest and southwest.
I guess I should have learned how to read a compass in college. Anyway, that's my motion. We have a second? Let's do a roll call vote, please. You said Aguilar? Yes. Motion approved. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your time. We look forward to working with you.
Thank you. If y'all will contact Bryant, we'll get on as soon as y'all.
Yeah.
As soon as y'all get hold to him.
We got Brian. We know.
Okay. If y'all can't get him, email me and I'll get him for y'all. All right, we got another item on the agenda. Quiet, please. We still got another item on the agenda. It's SP. We still got another item, don't we?
Hey, folks, we got one more item on the agenda. If we could get it quiet, please.
We got item 4C, SP 26-009, site plan at T 134 Riga Road. You want to read the application, please?
This is case SP-26-0009 at T 13400 Riga Road. The owner is Brian Campbell of Piku Properties LLC. The applicant is Craig Corey of Monroe & Corey Inc. The site area is 10.17 acres. The zoning is B2 business. The zoning overlay is PUD-13-06. The character area is suburban. Flood zone is X. Existing use is undeveloped. The request is a site plan for Piku Place planned overlay on tract 4-A of Piku Place subdivision. The request meets the site plan threshold for zoning commission approval. The applicant proposes a new 112,500 square foot office/warehouse with an access drive to Park Bluff Drive. The applicant proposes 25,279 square feet of office space and 87,221 square feet of warehouse space. The combined office/warehouse requires 101 parking spaces and 125 spaces are proposed. The proposed office/warehouse also includes 10 loading bays. Staff finds that the site plan complies with the applicable technical requirements and review criteria of the UDC and therefore recommends approval.
So apologize for that.
That's okay.
It's your turn again.
So this is the same development as we talked about before. It's just the site plan approval and the final development approval, which has already been approved. So if y'all have any questions, we're here to answer. So.
If there's any questions? All right, this is a public hearing. I think I got one comment card here from Benjamin Sadler. That's your comment? Thank you. No other comment cards. Anybody else want to speak on this? Thank you for your comments, ma'am. Let me just reiterate that the drainage study is based on a 25-year plan, and the water leaving the site cannot increase the downstream elevations of any ponds, any retention ponds at all. Okay, and that's in a 25-year storm. Now, that doesn't mean that it's not getting increased due to some rain that's even included in your subdivision, but it's just according to the engineering principles, which is the technology behind it is fairly well known, and it works. I've seen it work in the 16 flood, and I've built probably 25 subdivisions around this area, and even in the 16 flood, every retention pond that was built, I've never saw water leave. Usually they have a 100-year emergency overflow for a 100-year storm. I've never seen water in any retention pond in East Baton Rouge, I can't say East Baton Rouge Parish, but Ascension and Livingston, that water went through the 100-year emergency overflow. What happened was backwater flooding came up and it flowed backwards into the ponds, and that's what flooded everybody. It wasn't a rain event, it was backwater flooding. But anyway, they do a good job doing it, and I'm sure they'll review it appropriately. The client does a drainage study, submits it to the city reviews it, and like I said, all city engineers are very, very good. They do this all the time for other projects all over the state, actually all over the southern part of the United States. They're very, very good at what they do, and they also do traffic studies, but the client does the original traffic study. Is that correct, or do we do the traffic study, Brian?
Typically, well, it could go either way, but typically if for some projects the client will do the traffic study, we review and submitting comments to say if we have an issue with it. We also have the opportunity where we can do the city itself can do the traffic study and then compare it to whatever's submitted into us if there's a disagreement.
I'm sorry, we're not gonna do a question and answer session here. If you wanna make a comment, we'll let you make a 3 more minute comment, and then we're gonna close the public hearing. Does anybody else wanna speak on this? Anyone? There being none, we'll close the public hearing. Commissioners, we got any other questions? Finn, Bryant, anybody? What's y'all wishes?
Motion approved.
Do a roll call vote, please, again. Yes. Motion carries. We have any other business? Any other new business? Ma'am, I'm sorry, the public hearing's over with. We're not gonna take comments now. Is any other business? Any general public comments? Anybody wanna make a public comment? You wanna make a public comment? We'll let you make a 3-minute public comment if you'd like. If you want to, come on up.
I just have one short statement. I'm not even sure why we even went ahead with this hearing, especially since the
Sit down.
Klein Peters.
I can't hear you.
Excuse me, sir. I said I'm not even sure why we went forward with this, especially since the Klein Peters have sued and said that the city of St. George is illegal and not properly permitted. So is it going both ways? They get to say that, but then they get to come here for another thing? That's the problem I have. Thank you, sir.